Spy stories and mysteries are some of the most popular books at Cromaine Library. But did you know that nothing is crazier than what happened in real life? These books are an excellent example of how the movies just don't do spy stories justice. Check out this series of books if you love something that's action-packed and will just blow your mind. The Nazi Hunters is one of the craziest spy stories I have ever heard of. So after World War II ends, one of the main men who basically masterminded the Holocaust just waltzes out of Germany. He just walks over the border, and in the confusion at the end of World War II, he just kind of vanishes into thin air. And so one day there's this girl in Argentina, of all places, and she's like, so I went on a date with this guy, and he has this name that I kind of recognize. His last name is Eichmann. Wasn't there a Nazi with the last name of Eichmann? And so her dad looks this up, and he's like, yeah, there was. So he contacts the Israeli embassy, and he's like, hey, so there's this guy named Eichmann hanging out in Argentina. Is he this guy that you're looking for, this mastermind behind the Holocaust? So they put together this elite team of people to try to, A, see if this is the guy that they're actually looking for, and B, if he is, to try to capture him. This is the kind of story that gets people interested in spy stories. And I am so waiting for this story to get so much more attention because it is absolutely crazy. And it all started with a date. Go figure. Bomb is one of those stories that should be a movie, but it's not. During World War II, there were a group of people working on what was called the Manhattan Project, and that was the code name for the atomic bomb, for building the atomic bomb. So they get all of these really insanely smart people together, and they have to work in secret in basically the middle of the desert and try to figure out how to make an atomic bomb. Here's the thing. There are a bunch of other countries who also want to make an atomic bomb. So they send in spies to try to figure out where other people are in the process, steal their ideas. And there are some spies that infiltrate the Manhattan Project, particularly Russian spies. And so this kind of sets the stage for the entire Cold War as well. This is a crazy book that will definitely appeal to people who are into science because there's a lot of science in how things were made and how things were tested. So if you are into science, this is going to be a great book for you. But if you love espionage and spy stories and secret codes and all that kind of stuff, you've got to pick this book up too. The Grand Escape is a really interesting prison breakout story. Okay, so it's World War I. There are a bunch of British officers, American officers, and a few other officers from all around the world. And they're all in this one prison camp because basically they've all tried to escape before. So they put all of these people who just can think of nothing but escape in the same place, which to me is kind of not smart. So these people immediately start trying to figure out how they're going to escape from the quote unquote most unbreakable prison in World War I. And so they start digging tunnels under the prison walls. And it's just absolutely crazy because a lot of people, they end up making it out and then they're recaptured through just luck. This is the story about how a group of people got together and escaped one of the worst prison camps during World War I. All right, so everybody knows that President Lincoln was shot in Ford's Theater. But what happened after? This is an insane story. So after John Wilkes Booth shoots Abraham Lincoln in Ford's Theater, he jumps onto the stage. He actually twists his ankle or breaks his ankle and then kind of just disappears out the back door. This is the story about chasing him down. And they realize it's not just John Wilkes Booth. He was part of this whole plot, this whole group of people who wanted to assassinate the president. And so this is about kind of untangling all the threads of this group of people, who they are, what they did, and then hunting John Wilkes Booth down through different states and following a bunch of crazy different leads and how they ended up finding him in the end. This is one of those true stories that you just absolutely cannot believe. Speaking of secret codes, George Washington was probably the first spy master in the entire country. George Washington, of all people, right? Crazy to think about, but he was. So if you've watched the musical Hamilton, you know that there's this group called the Sons of Liberty, and Hercules Mulligan was a part of it. This is one of many, many, many groups that were in the colonies during the Revolutionary War trying to spy on the British. And all of the secret codes they came up with, some of that stuff is still used today. It's crazy to think about, but true. This book explains all of the spying and counter-spying that goes on in the Revolutionary War and how it set the stage for modern spies. For even more book suggestions or to request your own nonfiction book, go to www.cromaine.org or email youthandteen@cromaine.org to send in your request. Happy reading!